Hey, people. Zach here. I'm an actor in the city of Chicago and soon to be worldwide. Stay tuned. And as always, on my left and your right, I am joined by the marvelous, the magnificent muchacho.
I'm Michael, everybody. I'm also an actor here in the city of Chicago. We are back with Chicago Reacts. We are checking out some SsethTzeentach. This is Songs of Conquest review, working as intended edition.
TMs attached to each individual working as intended.
Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and go check us out on Twitch. If you are watching this within 3 hours of it dropping, we are live, so go check it out. With that said, let's jump into it.
All right, here we go, buddy.
Hey people, Seth here. Apologies for the delays. I've been busy bone mashing for the past few weeks. Look it up. I really don't think I need to explain myself or why gently hammering my chin and cheeks will eventually mold my natural skull to that of a Cro-Magnon grug. Listen, I've been listening to alpha podcasts, and according to men talking to other men, women desire nothing more than a man that looks like Australopithecus. But between my transformation of mind and body, I've been playing something real good. Songs of Conquest is a turn-based hom-like, a genre which currently has 4 games in it, and that's including Heroes 6 and 7. Songs of Conquest is a spiritual successor to Heroes of Might and Magic, and it's a damn good one, which means I am spiritually contracted by the laws of a greater universe, by the creator sons who built this plane of Eurasia to see this game financially prosper. Remember, in this life I am nothing but the mouthpiece of Moloch. I'm just here to tell you what to consume. I like my games like I like my women. A famous YouTuber once told me while driving past the local kindergarten. Early access. This is not a joke, it's a cry for help. Ever since the gold play button arrived, I've realized I'm in a den of predators, and there's a hierarchy. Every blood moon we have to offer the pay of a child to Mr. Beast.
Oh my god.
Strike all your videos.
And I
really need that AdSense money. Songs of Conquest is early access. Technically, it's completely functional and has more than enough content to justify the price tag, which is ironic because I didn't pay for it. Gameplay. Because I played so much Heroes, I did.
Yo, also just real quick note, like this looks like a somewhat normal game.
This looks, I know, this seems way normal for Seth. And I love the art style too. It's so like, it's so rich in fantasy. I love it.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. This is the first time where I'm watching a game. I'm like, okay, this isn't so far out of my realm of potential.
Yeah, though we just started, so we'll see.
I know, right? Stay tuned.
Primarily talk about this game in comparison to Heroes of Might and Magic. So, what's in common? It's a turn-based fantasy strategy where each player owns a number of heroes with a limited number of moves per turn. They can be used to fight monsters, take resources, and upgrade towns to fill their ranks with more powerful units. The objective is to defeat every other player. Differences: there's no overland spells, thank God, because I'm tired of living in a world with town portals and dimension doors where a single man can simultaneously defend every town on the map, yet lives in perpetual fear of a dungeon player who, depending on RNG, has both a movement points and mana to dimension door across the entire map and take every single town you own in a single turn. I find this entertaining, engaging, dopaminergic, and to the person who inflicted this upon me after a 4-hour game, I wish you a very pleasant retrograde ejaculation. Instead of heroes, they're called welders. Welders are attuned to essence, the magic of this world. Every unit generates a unique type and quantity of essence when their turn begins, adding to the welders.
Not wielders, welders.
Welders.
Like welders.
Like it's an elder that's very well.
A welder.
Welder. Welder.
You have one spell book containing every spell. That might sound underwhelming until you realize I never said anything about casting one spell, because you can cast every spell multiple times and they stack. How many spells can you cast in a single turn? Infinite. Your only limitation is imagination. And of course, the amount of essence you possess. Combat is effectively a chessboard, except my queen gets 10 consecutive moves because I collected 21 yellows and purples. Towns are no longer a single screen. They're actual towns surrounded by external buildings. These are modular. You can build whatever you want, provided you've got the space for it. Unlike Heroes, where units are produced in bulk at the start of each each week. Here, you produce a constant supply every day. This takes a bit of getting used to, but the logic is you get to see an immediate return on your investment immediately, as opposed to 7 days. And because build sites are modular, there's nothing stopping us from building 6 rat warrens at the same time and dedicating ourselves to playing a purely rat-based experience. Generally, you produce more than you have actual money to buy. Economy is important, and we must increase our GDP. For this reason, half the towns I conquer, out of necessity, will become plantations. Yes, it's a fantasy military campaign. And you know what? It still runs on corn. Also, I have found that all the resources I ever need cannot be found. So I have to build markets, and then I have to build more markets to offset the horrible exchange rate, because I cannot afford to buy lean rock at such prices. Conquering the town of another faction gives you several options. Raze it to the ground and rebuild as your own. Convert the town, which replaces each building with your respective faction equivalent, or occupy the town, which means you keep it intact. You can't do anything with it, but for every turn it's occupied, you generate an obscene amount of money. In case you haven't figured it out, you can't mix races. Sorry, that doesn't sound very good. You can't mix different factions in this game. Some might be upset about that. There's a very simple explanation.
That's a better way to put it.
That provides a little bit of clarity as to what Seth meant in that given moment in time.
Each of the 4 races generate very different types of essence. If you could mix and match, you would have access to the strongest spell combinations in the game, which, by design, are intentionally difficult to obtain. Combat is very similar to Heroes. If you're not familiar, each unit is called a stack. The number represents how many identical units are inside that stack. For example, these are ducks. They are a stack of 7 ducks, but I can split them into 7 stacks of 1 duck. Does that make sense? Either way, I can't hear you, so I'm going to continue. On the command ability of your welder, your army contains between 3 to 9 stacks. Unlike Heroes, your stack has a maximum size depending on the unit. This is so you actually play the game, instead of playing Necropolis, which involves waiting inside your base until the numbers get so high they stop rendering. I'll never forget the tactical genius of telling all my units to wait, only for my Brazilian opponent to match my strategic prowess by making all of his units wait, which put us right back to the beginning, as if nothing ever happened. Delaying your turn to bait out the enemy, thankfully, is no longer an option. Every unit now has a zone of control, meaning if you enter any of the surrounding hexagons, you can't leave or pass without provoking an attack of opportunity. Consequently, reaching your opponent's backline is guaranteed death for his ranged units. Conversely, ranged units benefit from high elevation. The higher you are, the bigger your range, and the harder it is for melee units to reach you. Compared to Heroes, unit upgrades are very pricey. However, the upgraded form of every unit is about a 2-fold power difference, which doesn't account for all the abilities they receive. These range from game-changing to I'm going to play the bagpipes. Currently, there's 4 races to play: Arleon, Rana, Baria, and the Barony of Loth. Arleon is post-collapse Rome, a formerly dominant empire carved up by barons and feudal lords, trying desperately to hold on to the status quo. That is, if Rome allied itself with the entire furry community. Honestly, I kind of get it. Imagine you were an explorer, and you stumble upon this isolated village inside the Amazon, consisting entirely of Crystal the Fox, but there's no males, so you gotta do your part. You gotta turn those woodland creatures into woodland Twinkies, because if you don't, they won't survive. Baria is literally the Merchants Guild. They're a federation of technologically advanced merchant states who also engage in a little slavery, which is unfortunately where
I'm starting to see why this is a Seth game now.
Finally, it took 7 minutes.
I'm like, okay, here we are. We're getting into the crazy stuff.
Right. It took 7 minutes, but we got there.
Yeah.
Because we've never owned slaves. I actually asked my relatives, and technically, what we had would be referred to as serfs. Rana represent the scalies, the frogs, and everything else that comes out of a swamp. Typically, if you have more than 4 limbs, you get to be part of Rana. Enslaved and abused for generations, their natural response, understandably, is to murder everyone. Finally, we've got the Barony of Loth, a breakaway faction of Arleon. The only difference? Necromancy. They're trying to bring back the good old days by raising them from the dead. For reference, one of their basic units is a loyal soldier brought back from the dead. Their strongest is several soldiers buried close together, so when resurrected, they fuse together into a giant lump. And that's about it for gameplay.
I love that design. It looks so cool.
It's actually pretty sick. I mean, the art style of this game is actually really... It looks really cool. I'm loving that it's got a very unique color palette too.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
It's just a very like
It's pretty bright. Like the way they. I mean, it's both dark and grungy, but with these really like cool neon, almost pops of color.
yeah, and it's also just very different from normal Seth games that are 2D games that look gray and brown that have little 2D sprites. Like,
Pretty much the quintessential Heroes experience. This game can be played both on and offline, single player and multi. It's not very clear, but you can actually hot seat this game, as in play with 2 people on the same computer. All you have to do is tag yourself in for 2 slots when starting the map. There's currently no mechanic to hide the screen between turns, so I recommend putting a blanket over it before you press end turn. Still, there's no guarantee people won't try to peek, which is why I record the entire session on a USB camera. My house is a very fun place. Hey Seth, why is there a proximity sensor? Good question. Why is there movement at 3 in the morning? There's also a map editor, and it's very good. You can do a lot of complex events without having to understand the code behind it. Conversely, for the Heroes 5 video, I had to learn a scripting language just to make a 10-second joke. Finally, there's the single-player campaign.
but Seth would do that.
Story. There's currently 2 campaigns, Arleon and Rana, each consisting of 4 different missions. Do not be fooled. These are deceptively long and take a while to finish. The Arleon campaign is a good introduction to the game. It shows you the ropes and helps you understand the core concepts. However, your main character, Cecilia, is a unit-focused welder, so you won't get a super deep appreciation of the essence system until you've had more time to play around with it. She's not a spellcaster, so you won't get access to better spells unless you know exactly how to level up and tilt the skill priority. And for the record, I don't think most people playing right now even realize you can do that. So unless you know exactly what you're doing, which, spoiler, you don't, you're going to have a mixed experience. That's because you'll mostly have Order Essence, which is very buff heavy, but it's not spectacular, and you don't have it leveled up, so you won't even get to see its full potential. It's a mild complaint, and you can fix it by playing the Rana campaign. At the end of each mission, you are rewarded with singing. I'll be honest, I skipped this in the beginning because I felt secondhand embarrassment, but eventually I grew to like it and just embraced the experience. I thought about it. The bards of yesterday are pretty much the SoundCloud rappers of today. So why did I produce such an automatic, visceral response? Maybe the Zoomer population could relate a little more. Maybe if every mission was concluded with a short performance by the prodigious Lil Yachty. Maybe the eventual Barony of Loft campaign could feature lyrics by SsethTzeentach, which would be fitting because, you know, they're undead. And he is, similar. Right now, the game is always changing.
Seth's a savage, dude. Seth is a friggin' savage, man. Like, oh my god.
Week nerfing some kind of exploit, which was usually the core of my strategy. So I'm forced to make this review even faster to try and outpace the balance team. I'm obviously using a plural, but I know who you are. Carl. Listen, I'm just a young blood trying to make it in the project. I'm raised on a staple diet of oatmeal and ironic webms of anime girls about to undress, where in the last second, they pull a bait and switch on you, swapping to animated footage of African-American men reflecting shower water using their developed glutes. But you gotta keep a brother down when you capped Essence generation to 6 a unit. Why you gotta do this to me? He's doing this quicker than I can write the script, and no, I am not going to correct.
What is happening? What is happening?
There was a moment where I was like, yeah, okay, you do that, and then you get that, and I'm like, wait, what?
I think we are experiencing Seth have a mental full-on breakdown right now.
Seth went too deep on this one, y'all. He went too deep.
Songs of Conquest. Seth went a little too deep.
It did something. The essence. It's his brain.
Correct myself, I'm just going to Photoshop over it and pretend it still works. Section 3, abusing the game. The following is an unsorted list of things I've discovered. Spells. Spells are interesting. Classic. Spells can be stacked for great effect. For example, knights have the ability to charge. For every tile they cross, they deal more damage. But if you cast Quicken and stack it repeatedly, they can run back and forth across the entire battlefield several times over, until finally they collide with the enemy, pacify a monster. Do it twice Whatever damage it used to do, it doesn't, and now can be safely beaten to death using string instruments. Charge Essence allows a necromancer to generate his essence twice per turn. Strengthen Essence allows any unit generating essence to generate even more. Casting Strengthen Essence twice on free necromancers gives you 36 balls worth of arcane and destruction. That's 2 arcane storms and 2 fireballs every turn. Or you can repel him 5 times. The displacement may be physical, but the damage is psychological. I found out repel also works on your units. This enables us to perform drive-bys. You know what else works on your units? Blood Boil. Wait, what's this? A rat go berserk when injured, doing double damage? Very curious. Blind Hatred makes a unit randomly attack another. At max level, this happens 3 times in sequence. So we force a militia to attack a horned one. The horned one berserks, one-shots the militia, and everyone around it. You can cast this on your own units as well. Charge a High Legion into enemy ranks. By the way, Legion attacks cleave through enemies into adjacent targets. Cast Blind Hatred. Watch as they peel everyone around them like a potato. And then continue your turn, because that didn't count as an attack. If that ever sounds unfair, just remember, you can take 3 stacks of dragons, take 3 turns, and then cast Rejuvenate to get 6 turns, and then cast Mist on them, turning them invincible until the next turn. This doesn't affect you because they're faster than everyone else, which puts you in an infinite loop where you can attack the enemy and turn invincible before he can ever respawn every single turn. But when you have so many
I always did wonder in games like this,
always
like
breaking
how
the games.
right,
He's like, I found out how to be invincible.
yes, yet again. But it's like, yeah, the developers of these games, like managing balance and stuff, when you start to get into games that just rely on such heavy statistics across the board, how they're able to like keep track of things and keep everything balanced is just
well, because it's also like you have to play for a certain amount of time to like build up enough in each level to like be able to do that.
right.
So I feel like there's a certain sense of like, oh, you don't notice for a while that it's like, oh, this is so broken.
Like in this case, actually broken.
Yeah.
Like could win the entire campaign by just abusing a simple thing with the dragons to get infinite turns. And then yeah.
Exactly.
dragons, you're building tall. So I cast Justice, which kills 9 of a stack, regardless of what they are. Each time I cast that spell, you lose 30k, which makes you rather upset. So you patch it the next day. Whatever am I going to do? Oh, that's right. I'll just cast it again. Alternatively, take advantage of the Essence system to build wide and fill every army slot with a 1-stack. Good idea, but you're not the first. There's a mechanic called Momentum. Essentially, each time you kill a stack, everyone on your team does more damage, but they also take less damage. For this reason, losing several units in a row quickly spirals out of control and may cost you the entire fight. Ignore my advice, continue to 1-stack. Have your opponent cast Apocalypse on your ass. Realize, in that moment, his welder has Essence Leech. Watch as your essence gets stolen, multiplied by 3, and used against you. Going wide isn't bad, as per se, but there's more interesting ways to do it. Sacrifice 9 stacks of Blessed Bones to make 9 stacks of Skeletons to generate 18 units worth of essence. Then, do it again to make 27. Paint the map. Don't stop until there's no more free space. When walking is no longer an option, when the concept of moving forward implies we can burn it quicker than it grows. Earthblock is a great spell. So great, in fact, that nobody could invade towns anymore. Melee units would desperately tunnel through the jungle, dying from 10 billion trillion arrows before they even got close. According to the patch notes, they fixed it. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing, because I'm still doing it. In this game, I mentioned an obligation and more of a rough guideline, which I've chosen to ignore.
That's
I don't need to
hilarious.
explain how a cannon, which normally has to reload between shots, can
That's an example where Seth's delivery is just perfect. Perfect.
And also how he's like, oh, you say you patched it? Well, I'm going to put that to the test.
And I'm going to keep doing it.
fire the same cannonball 10 times in a row. But if you stack multi-attack on a Hell Breath, anything is possible. Spells have a lot of fine print. For example, Rapid Fire gives every ranged unit an extra attack, but it's not based on the unit's turn, it's based on the entire round. So 3 different units shoot 6 times, but because it's still the same round, we cast Rejuvenate and shoot 12 times. I love this game. Swap is a very versatile spell. What's that? A tightly knit circle of spellcasters? Allow me to swap in my hyena with his mage, leaving
No
his forces
way.
with no option but to kill themselves, because a hyena retaliates first and has infinite retaliations. Defending against a siege, decide that I want my ballistas even closer. His strongest unit is now at the top of my tower, so I fence him off into a little playpen. Bad smell gas, a leading cause of BRAP-related mortality. Swapping 2 units inside a cloud of gamer girl miasma makes them gag all over again, forever, until their nostrils bleed and their organs collapse out of mercy to escape this mustard hell. I know my imagery is evocative, but for the record, I'm not into this. I have a flowery imagination, and I'm an empath, which means even if I'm not a brap fag, I have walked that path, and I have found it to be morally dubious. It's time to change the topic. The most ridiculous swap I've ever done is with an artificer. Place a landmine directly in front of him, target an enemy on the same lane, and swap him out. The landmine is now directly behind the enemy. Cast repel, and watch them forcibly eat the landmine twice, because for some reason, repelling people into traps applies the damage twice. At this point, I am so far gone, I don't even know where exploits begin and mechanics end. Case in point, normally, it takes a while to get your economy rolling and producing troops, but when you recruit a welder, they spawn with some units already. Now, if you dismiss them, they disappear from the game, but they can be rehired with the same starting units. So, right from the start, we print a bunch of high-end units, steamroll through the early turns, and pay off our investment. This is, objectively, the best way to play, as according to my subjective feelings. Then I wondered to myself, could I abuse the hire and dismiss mechanic even more? Of course I did. Why else would I write this? There's a very interesting skill in this game called Tutor. When 2 friendly welders interact, max level Tutor grants 75% of a tutor's total experience to the other welder at no cost. When welders level up, they get offered skills. Depending on your choices, you get offered a different power at levels 8 and 16. Paired with a high level Tutor, I abuse this to train 8 different welders in the blink of an eye. We avoid skills with combat and magic. We take only miscellaneous passive income. So when we hit level 8, we get access to Levy, which means at level 16, we get the upgrade. Rank 2 Levy is a power that grants you a global 60% increase in unit production. Multiplied by 8 welders and rounded up, that's 500% more dragon every turn. That's 6 dragons a day. It's actually insane. Alternatively, your opponent is running a counter to your build, so you build the counter to his counter, except in your case, it takes you 5 seconds to counter his entire game, or you realize you can't win. A fair fight, that is. But who said we had to fight fair? We're going to win by losing, and they're going to lose by winning. We train up a bunch of welders to get the first turn. We nuke the field, we kill units many times our value, and then we die. And then we do it again and again, until eventually they have no troops left with which to fight. At which point, I start to mock them. I call them gay, and immediately apologize, unless they identify with that label, in which case, I send a little kiss, you know, to establish dominance. I've told you a lot of abuse, but ultimately the strongest tactic in this game is just play Rana. All the Rana initiative upgrades, prepared level 3 and eager level 2, results in the highest possible initiative in the entire game. There is no counterplay because you don't get to play, you just get to watch. As Sun Tzu famously said, when 2 men sword fight in the shower, the winner strikes first. At the end of the day, balance. I don't give a shit because I want something interesting to me. I played a lot of Heroes multiplayer, and guess what? It sucked. There's very little dopamine to be had from playing online. Here, it's a lot better. Games go faster, you fight quicker, and more often. You have to carve a path up to your enemy and manage supply lines. You don't just win out of the blue without some foreshadowing or momentum. Based on the title, you would expect some good music, and you'd be correct. I think the music is generally fantastic, but the Arleon and Frog tracks have a particular nest in my heart. The amount of sprite work done for this game is absolutely insane. When I realized they made a unique sprite for every welder, that there's 9 per faction, so they had to make 36 of them. I felt pretty humble. All the sprites and all the animations are beautiful.
Honestly, they're
so
cool.
Just a beautiful game.
Like, really. Like,
it's one of the, I would say, coolest looking games that we've watched Seth play.
Yeah, because a lot of it is, you know, a lot of Seth's content compared to this game. Like, this game, there's actually feels like there's something enjoyable to watch and see, and it's a little more visually stimulating.
Yeah.
A lot of his other games, the 2D, very brown and gray looking games, it's like there's all the gameplay on the screen, but there's not really much to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things happening, but there's so much baked into like the back end of like all the different things that you can do, which is like why it's 2D, because they have like, well, here's a million different things that you can create. Like it's so massive in scale that like creating any sort of, that is the focus. But so it's cool to see something with just a little more in the graphics department. Yeah.
In summary, the world is incredibly starved for games like Songs of Conquest, and I'm gonna shill it as hard as I can, or for as long as my attention span holds. I'm such a Gemini.
The world creator's
because
cool
it
too.
represents a return to the 2000s, where products had long-term appeal and complexity, where some respect was given to the temporary, finite human experience which yearns for cognition and introspection. If you don't believe me, imagine releasing the ancient game of Mahjong as a standalone product today. It would play for you automatically until you reach a perfect 50-50 win-loss ratio, regardless of your own skill. It would have gacha mechanics. They would be described as forgiving, reasonable, and I'm paid to write this article, where 10,000 pulls grants you a single pity pull, where you can take out a loan at the press of a button to buy more gacha. And that little twig you throw is a DLC sold separately. In conclusion, I forgot the point I was trying to make. Get your car and go buy a 40-pound bag of rice. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Songs of Conquest. I adore this game and highly recommend it. If you're interested, follow my link for 30% off on GOG for the next 10 days. I think. I'm not sure. Yo, editor, clip this out. That's a joke. I don't have an editor. This is probably the best discount and lowest price ever offered, so please take advantage of it. I'd like to say this is made possible because of my inflated ego, a mechanism of overcompensation for my non-existent self-worth. But in reality, and though it pains me to say this, the man who made this possible is French. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned. I need to sell out. A warm thanks to the many members of the Merchants Guild generously funding and bankrolling these videos. You're all truly wonderful. Have a good one.
Have you heard of that thing with hitting your forehead? I've never seen that before, ever.
I never have either. And
Yo, post some links in that comment section. Are people doing this? This is insane.
And I believe that Seth is the one that does additional content after the credits. So
so we're gonna cruise through.
See some more of the game in action.
It is actually cool to see, like,
this music is pretty bomb.
It is.
Man, Seth's got a lot of patrons. Look at this. They're still on the A's over here.
I know. Oh, we got to be okay. There's like 12 Bens.
Yeah. I saw a lot of Bigs, a lot of Blakes, a lot of Billies.
Bobs. Brandons, a lot of Brandons. They got some Bryans with Ys too. That's nice.
Oh my God.
It is cool to see it just kind of play out though, and
be able
like
to
in
kind
real
of
gauge a bit more. Like, well, I don't know if I know more what's happening or not, but
I love it when people are able to take like kind of a classic musical genre and really put their own like twist and spin on it.
Yeah.
And like, this is awesome. It's very layered.
I do love the music. It's quite good.
Man, this is a lot of patrons. Even at $1 a piece.
Yeah. Hey,
Seth's bringing in bank.
Feel free to go check out our Patreon while you're at it.
Lots of
additional
additional
feel like
content.
supporting us. You got some good full reactions to movies and TV, plus some behind the scenes content. You know, go check it out. Go support.
A lot of Jameses.
I love the undead. I think that art style is maybe my favorite in this game.
lot of Johns.
Whoa.
It's freaking sick.
Blood boiling.
Mm-hmm. Fiend.
Any?
Maybe it's like, I know like there's some of the creators, and a lot of times, you know, when we read the comments for videos, a lot of times, yeah, there's certain content that is after the credits, but that was overall awesome.
Yeah.
It's you really, I feel like a lot of times we really have to be in the mood to like truly enjoy it and take the most out of a SsethTzeentach video. But this one, because of like the actual game itself and the art style, and it'd been cool if you would have had more of like the music playing throughout, like because that was really cool.
Yeah, I really loved the music, which we really didn't get a taste of until the end. He just commented on the bard songs in between each like mission, which you know, and again, Seth watches stuff that like I feel like he reviews games that are so like that are pretty niche. Like I don't see a lot of other people reviewing the games that he reviews. So it's just always really interesting. A lot of the games that he plays, I'm like, I don't know that I would have like the amount of time and energy he puts into those games is insane. So I always am at awe of like, man, you really min-max that to the max.
Yeah, min-max that to the max.
And it's just, I'm like, oh, I don't know that I would ever have figured that out.
Right. Yeah, so he proved basically a SsethTzeentach video is the epitome of the meme. Tell me you have a PhD without actually saying that you have a PhD.
Yeah.
Just by Seth's ability to break down a game until it is absolutely broken.
Yeah, I feel like, man, if you ever want someone to like test your game and to the breaking level, Seth is the perfect person.
Seth's as good as you can get in that department. Guys, if you liked the video, feel free to like it. If you loved it, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Do check out our Patreon as well. There's tons of additional bonus content there. And we hope you enjoyed as much as we did.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time on Chicago Reacts.